options. Is there some type of agreement on I'm going to be at least heavily involved in the play calling? I prefer my head coach not call plays. There's too much going on during the game. And I understand the head coach of my actual team, Andy Reid, does call plays. Right? But what's Andy Reid's biggest weakness? Time management, clock management, timeouts, the things that you should be focused on during the game that is tough to focus on if you're also figuring out the next play to call. Who are the best coaches in football? Bill Belichick, does he call offensive plays? John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Pete Carroll, all those guys have something in common. Shanahan is an excellent play caller. You don't want to take that away from him. He's not great at the game management stuff. I would argue Sean McVay's not great at the game management stuff. I just mentioned Andy Reid. So can Kellen Moore take some of this off of Mike McCarthy's plate? I also do wonder if during the sleepover Mike McCarthy had with Jerry Jones, this was a prerequisite. It was, listen, you can make your entire staff, except I would really, really appreciate if you keep Kellen. Jerry Jones has a history of wanting guys who played for him to be involved in the coaching operation in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, they bring in Kitna last year. Kellen Moore gets elevated to offensive coordinator. So I think this was probably an ask from Jerry Jones that Mike McCarthy acquiesced to, because what you see from the rest of his staff, it's like, oh, so he wants long-time NFL head coach, guys with coaching experience. John Fossil, a coach's son, who did a great job with special teams in Los Angeles. Mike Nolan, who'd been a head coach before, been around another coach's son, by the way, been around the league forever. And Tom Sula, who'd been a head coach in San Francisco and been around the league forever. And then there's 31-year-old Kellen Moore. One of these things is not like the other. I feel like this was an ownership ask that Mike McCarthy agreed to.
It may have been an ownership ask, and I think the sleepover probably kind of disrupted me just a little bit, because I'm saying, hey, Jerry Jones is already controlling Mike McCarthy. He's making him stay at his house already.
Yeah, man, but there's got to be a Four Seasons up the street, man. I'll see you in the morning for coffee.
That's an uncomfortable thing for any grown man to stay at another man's house. But anyway, I think this. If you're Kellen Moore and you just got the best season of his career out of Dak Prescott, I think you deserve an opportunity there. I think you deserve an opportunity to be on the staff, to continue that relationship with Dak. And I think Mike McCarthy probably should want Kellen Moore on that staff, because just for those reasons you mentioned, it's going to take some pressure off of Mike McCarthy to call plays. And listen, he may not call play all season long, but in a critical situation, Kellen Moore may be called upon to call plays. Or really, even if there's a situation that Mike McCarthy's dealing with something on the defensive side of the ball, Kellen Moore may be called upon to call plays, and he has confidence that he has a competent guy that was able to do it the year before with Dak Prescott that has that ability. Who has a better idea of what's on that football team right now than Kellen Moore, the guy that called plays? And so I think this is a smart hire for Mike McCarthy. I think it's a great hire for the Dallas Cowboys, and really for Dak Prescott, who's going to get a lot of coaching from Mike McCarthy. I think this is a good hire, because now you can kind of balance that out with Kellen Moore.
And the issue with Dallas last year was not their ability to accumulate yards or accumulate points. They averaged more than 25 points a game. They averaged more than 400 yards of offense a game. Teams like that always make the playoffs historically, unless you have a horrific defense, which Dallas did not. The issue was the inability to beat good teams, situational play calling, which, by the way, is something McCarthy had struggled with as well. So those two guys need to put their brains together and figure that out. And in the key spots, who are we giving the ball to? And so that is something Kellen Moore can learn from, and I would imagine Mike McCarthy can learn from as well.
All right, let's move on. Not to be.
I was surprised. I was surprised because you're going to the situation where you had Bob McAdoo for a couple of years. You had Pat Shermer for a couple of years. Both kind of flamed out and failed. And now you're getting a guy that's really unknown. No one knew who the heck Joe Judge was really before yesterday, the day before. And so you put him in a situation where you're saying you have a young quarterback. How do you mentor that quarterback? Who are your coordinators going to be? These are big-time questions for Joe Judge. But I also see the other side. I spent time with John Harbaugh before he became the head coach, before he came the secondary coach. And when he was the special teams coach, when I was playing majority special teams, I saw his situational awareness. I saw his attention to detail. I saw his ability to motivate the players, how to get the guys together. Because in the NFL, nobody really wants to play special teams. You want to play offense or defense. You want to make your name on those types of things. And so they have to be able to, the special teams coordinators have to be able to bring the guys together to motivate them, to get them ready to play. John Harbaugh Harbaugh was able to do that. And so I guess the Giants are saying Joe Judge probably has that same skill because the special teams for the Patriots has won them a few games this past season. They played well in the past as well, and so they have to be looking at that. Here's the big difference between the situation that John Harbaugh walks into and the situation that Joe Judge walks into. Doesn't have Ed Reed. Doesn't have Ray Lewis, 2 Hall of Famers. Doesn't have Terrell Suggs, potentially a Hall of Famer. Most importantly, he doesn't have Ozzie Newsome, who is the best GM in football at this point in time. And so these are the questions that they're going to have to answer after they hire Joe Judge. Big-time questions in New York.
To me, there's 2 discussions about this. One is about the person, Joe Judge. I don't know Joe Judge. I'm very happy for him. From all reports, he's worked incredibly hard. He has learned under Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, and the Patriots unit, to me, that was the most standout, impressive, head and shoulders better than everyone else in the league, aside from their kicking part of it, was their special teams last year. They were the best punt blocking team I can ever remember. Jerry Jones had a damn near meltdown after that game because Joe Judge's special teams units gave Jason Garrett's special teams units such fits in that game. And I do think, as a general rule, special teams coordinators should get more opportunities because what I have heard from people who played for John Harbaugh talk about how he was able to take a holistic approach to the team, not focus on one side of the ball, and how that helped them. So I don't think this is necessarily a bad hire. It's a risky hire. The Giants are putting themselves in a position where somehow they could be on another new head coach in a couple years, so maybe it's not the hire I would have made. But Joe Judge, good for him. I'm happy for him. The other conversation is, it is so frustrating that people that look like Joe Judge are the only people that get to take this career path. That we are in a league that is over 60% black and less than 10% of the coaches are black. And he became Joe Judge because it's like, wait, who? He became the poster boy for this. This is not his fault. And by the way, the Giants are allowed to hire on an individual basis whomever they want. This is not the Giants' fault. It is just another reminder that there's a systemic problem in this league when it comes to giving non-white guys opportunities to be head coaches. And we can go down the list. Yeah, of course, Eric Bieniemy should be a top candidate. Doug Peterson was Andy Reid's right-hand man. He got a job. Matt Nagy was his right-hand man. He got a job. Eric Bieniemy is his right-hand man for the best offense Andy Reid's ever had. And all of a sudden, it's a problem. Well, Andy calls the plays. Wasn't no problem for Peterson. Wasn't no problem for Nagy. Byron Leftwich. He takes Jameis Winston. Had more passing yards this year than any quarterback in the history of football not named Peyton, Breeze, Brady, or Roethlisberger. He's not even considered. Leslie Frazier took a team with Christian Ponder as the quarterback to the postseason. He's been relegated to be a coordinator for a damn near a decade since one bad year after that. And for folks that want to say, oh, you want them to just hire a token candidate, or you don't want them to hire the best person for the job. Again, this is not about Joe Judge. He might have been the best person. But the assumption that you could have the demographics of the league and end with the demographics of the coaching staffs and have that only be a meritocracy is so, to me, wildly ignorant. What would we think if all of a sudden 30% of NHL coaches were black? We'd be like, well, that is peculiar, considering the fact that the vast majority of players are not. And this is not just an NFL problem. It's an NBA problem. It is an American corporate issue of black people and non-white people not getting opportunities of leadership. And it ultimately comes from the inherent assumption, whether people want to admit it or not, that many people have, which is, I can trust you to play for me. I can trust you on the defensive side of the ball to motivate guys. I can trust you to be an emotional a leader. But when it comes to the thinking,